All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Tawfiq Ahmed. I am a portfolio manager at Trimble, focusing on products such as Trimble RTX and other high accuracy GNSS correction services. Today, I'm joined by Alex, Jay, and Joe, and I'll let them introduce themselves. Go ahead, Alex.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I'm Alex with Trimble. I'm the technical sales engineer for advanced positioning. Go ahead, Joe or Jay.
Hey, good morning. This is Jay Reister, Senior Mapping Support Technician with Seiler Geospatial.
Hi, everybody. My name's Joe Madai. I am mapping technical support based out of our St. Louis office for Seiler.
So today we're going to be talking about high accuracy positioning using GNSS. We're talking about high accuracy corrections and getting into more details about Trimble RTX. So with that being said, from today's session, what we want to get through to you is the benefits of the different types of correction services that are available and how you can use them to achieve high accuracy positioning for your mapping projects. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to get into more details about Trimble RTX, the benefits of RTX use cases, and how it integrates into the Trimble solution. To start off with, I'm going to explain the nature of corrections and high accuracy positioning. So you take out your GNSS receiver, it could be on a pole, you take it outside and you're tracking all of these GNSS satellites. So this includes GPS, GLONASS, Galileo, BeiDou. That's all that is. You just go out with your receiver. We call this autonomous positioning, and when you're positioning in this mode, you may get 3 to 5 meters of accuracy. Not very highly accurate, so we don't consider this high accuracy positioning. It's not suitable for most professional applications. It's low accuracy, and also there's no repeatability. In order to have high accuracy, you need corrections of some sort. How do you get those corrections? So the first type of correction I'll talk about is SBAS. Again, you go outside, you're tracking the GNSS satellites, receiving the GNSS signals, but you're also receiving an additional signal from an SBAS satellite. In the United States and North America, that could be the WAS. In Europe, that could be EGNOS. This will provide slightly better accuracy. Still not quite up to par for a lot of applications, but still can be considered to be used for some applications. We don't consider this high accuracy either. The benefits of this solution type, it is that it is satellite delivered. It's available on a continent by continent basis. It is available in North America, in Europe. It's not available in Latin America. It's a free service typically provided by a government agency, and they service and maintain that service. Accuracy is low, the repeatability is low. For most of these services, you're only limited to GPS. So as I mentioned before, you've got GPS, Galileo, GLONASS, BeiDou. You're only using about a quarter of the satellites that are available in the sky. This is typically provided as a free service. The next method, I think a lot of people are familiar with, as we saw in the poll, and is what a lot of people may be using. RTK, real-time kinematic. The way this works is that you have your rover, but you're also setting up a second GNSS receiver known as your base station. You're required to set this up over a known position and accurately and correctly set that up. That base station here is tracking the exact same satellite signals that you're using at your rover over here. The base station calculates a correction and transmits that to your receiver. You are most often communicating via radio. So you have a radio on your receiver, a radio at the base station, and making that communication to receive the correction. This is a very precise and accurate method of high accuracy positioning. It can bring you down to 1 centimeter horizontal or 2 centimeter vertical. And it is dependent on your proximity. The accuracy is dependent on your proximity to this base station. Typically, it's suitable within 3 kilometers. You can definitely go further, but you're limited by your communication methods, how far you can get away with radio connectivity, as well as the fact, as I mentioned, that the accuracy does degrade as you get further away from the base station. You require a radio to be able to use this. It's very accurate, it's repeatable, but you do need to ensure that the base station is correctly set up and consistently set up correctly. This may require some expertise on setting up the base station and maintaining and watching over the base station. And of course, there is some time required to set up the base station, find a control point, or establish a control point so you can make sure that's accurately set up. So let's say you don't want to set up a base station, or you don't have a base station to set up. You may also have a receiver that doesn't have a radio interface. What are your other options? One is VRS. This is known as Virtual Reference Station. The way this works is, instead of a single base station, somebody would set up a network of base stations. This could be a Trimble reseller, it could be a DOT. It's typically a third party that invests in a network of base stations to provide that as a service to its users. So data is collected from a series of base stations, brought together, correction is calculated, and that correction is transmitted via internet to your receiver. So you'd have some sort of modem or cellular connectivity at your receiver to receive that correction. This is also very accurate, very similar to RTK, providing accuracy as good as 2 centimeters and 3 centimeters. And the accuracy degradation that I mentioned before with RTK, meaning the further away you get from the base station, the accuracy would degrade. It's not as applicable to VRS because you are getting a network solution. So there are multiple base stations, and that accuracy degradation isn't as significant. So VRS is a very good solution as well. It does require cellular network connectivity, and you must be in a region where a VRS network is available. It's highly accurate and repeatable, dependent on the VRS network. Most VRS networks, especially the ones owned by Trimble or Trimble's resellers, are maintained very well and highly accurate. It is a subscription-based service. In some cases, there are fees associated. In other cases, this may be provided free by some government agencies. All right, so went over RTK and VRS, but let's say you're in an area where VRS is not available. You don't want to bring out a base station with you, or you don't have access to a base station. There may be issues with your radio connectivity. You don't have internet. What are your other options? You can use RTX. This is a satellite delivered correction for high accuracy positioning. You'll see that it's similar to SMAS from a few slides before, but the difference is that how accurate you can actually get with this type of positioning. So with this methodology, again, you're tracking your regular GNSS satellites, GPS, Galileo, Beidou, GLONASS, but you're also tracking a special satellite that's geostationary that is providing these corrections. It's providing it on the same L-band spectrum as GPS and GNSS. So most receivers are capable of receiving this. It's also quite accurate, not as accurate as RTK or VRS, but let's say on the horizontal level, it's very similar, 2 centimeters horizontal, and vertical is only slightly worse at 5 centimeters. So I mentioned the satellite delivery of RTX, and that is certainly the most attractive use of RTX. It provides a lot of benefits. However, the exact same correction that is being calculated at the RTX server and sent via satellite is also available via internet. And every Trimble RTX subscription allows you to use either source for your correction. RTX is suitable almost anywhere in the world through satellite delivery. You don't require any terrestrial infrastructure such as base stations, cellular networks, or VRS networks. The delivery can be either satellite or internet. It's highly accurate and repeatable. It is also a subscription-based service. So I've reviewed all of the main types of corrections that we have available today, and those that are used for high accuracy positioning. The types of corrections that you use vary. We understand that your projects or your jobs requirements are unique and varied, and depending on the types of applications or the job itself, you may have different requirements, and therefore different types of corrections may be suitable. The Trimble RTX and the integration within the mapping and GIS solution offers some unique benefits. So the rest of the presentation will focus on Trimble RTX. First of all, I would like to talk about some of the benefits. I think there's a lot of intrinsic value in having and trying to use Trimble RTX, and it's something that should be considered when thinking about the type of correction that you'd like to use. So there are various types of projects that you may be working on, long corridor projects, projects that span multiple job sites, that can also span multiple states or locations. And you want to be able to complete that project in a timely manner with at the right price, meeting your project requirements and also coming in at your budget. One solution can be Trimble RTX. It is available globally. It's a single subscription that provides you access state to state. It doesn't require you to have additional infrastructure set up. It'll help you save time with setup and even hardware costs as well. The expertise required for alternatives is also minimized, and you are able, the solution is maintained and operated by Trimble. Looking at some of the other methods of corrections, a common challenge we see is that either interference or radial line of sight. This can cause your corrections to be disrupted and your productivity to be inhibited. So this typically happens when there may be obstructions. You're working in an area that's blocking your connection to your RTK base station. The same applies to cellular connectivity. You can have interference, you can have congestion on the cellular network. All of this will prevent you from receiving your corrections. The alternative could be to use a satellite-based correction such as RTX. As I mentioned before, RTX is broadcast on the same L-band spectrum as GPS and GNSS. Therefore, it's very rare that the L-band spectrum will have interference. If it does, then GNSS will as well. So your corrections and your GNSS should both simultaneously be available. Another challenge that we've seen, this is more focused on VRS, is due to cellular coverage lack of, or the lack of VRS network availability. Typically, this does happen in remote job sites, but it may also happen in some less remote areas where the VRS networks are just not established. Again, without having that available, you can either go through and bring a base station out with you, go through the work that's required to set that up, configure that up, have that radio communication available, or you could use something like a satellite delivered correction that is essentially available anywhere. This is our Trimble RTX portfolio. So Trimble RTX is the overarching brand and technology that goes behind all of these different services. And these services are different levels that we have within our portfolio. The most accurate service utilizing all of Trimble RTX is Centerpoint RTX, coming in at 2 cm horizontal and 5 cm vertical. And then from there, we have different levels of services depending on your application needs. And of course, they are at different price points as well. So purchase the subscription that meets your needs and use that subscription. This column here about convergence time, so I'll explain that briefly. It's referring to the time that it takes to achieve the stated accuracy here. It's a one-time convergence at the beginning of your day, and then you'll have this accuracy throughout your day. So it's less than 1 minute in fast regions. We have that in a couple slides. I'll show you the coverage area, or otherwise globally, it's less than 15 minutes. Again, it's just the one-time convergence at the startup of your job at the beginning of the day, and then you're essentially good for the rest of the day. This is our global satellite coverage map. So as you can see, satellite delivery is available essentially everywhere. As I mentioned, the satellites that we're using are geostationary over the equator. Therefore, as you get to extreme northern and southern latitudes, the coverage is limited and then it cuts off. However, in most areas, satellite delivery is available. Otherwise, internet delivery is available anywhere. As long as you're able to get an internet connection, you'll have internet delivery. As I mentioned, at the fast convergence time, we've got less than 1 minute convergence in all of continental United States and most of southern Canada. And we also have the same in most of Western Europe. When you're in these regions, you will converge in less than a minute. It's an insignificant amount of convergence time and almost unnoticeable. And then you're able to work and get high accuracy positions all day. This is standard and it's included with all of your subscriptions. So now I'll pass it off to Alex, who's going to talk a little bit more about the benefits.
Thank you, Tawfiq. So as Tawfiq already mentioned, RTX really brings the time savings and increased efficiency that allows you to complete your job faster with less dedicated field persons, and that ultimately translates to cost savings to you. Now, RTX is very similar to VRS, as Tawfiq's shown, with the biggest difference of the fact that you don't need cellular and you are able to work across states where there's different VRS networks, where you then have to punch in a different username and password, you get a new subscription, etc. RTX is concurrent across all the states in the US here, which allows you to continue working over state border lines without any interruption. So below, we did a demonstration setting up 4 survey control points using various methods. Control points are really the reference points you would base your entire survey or data points against. For mapping, consider it the base stations or NGS markers that you would post-process against with your collected field points. So the first method we did was your conventional survey, which consists of occupying 4 control points, using 3 base stations and 3 crew members moving around. It took about 6 hours to drive around, set up stations, occupy, and then of course the office work to post-process the final coordinates. The second is by using already existing control points, such as NGS ground points, and doing site calibrations. It took about 2.5 hours. There were, I believe, 2 of us doing that. The third was just myself doing occupying control points and then submitting them to Opus, which is NGS's online post-processing tool, and getting the post-processed results back. This took about just shy of 2 hours by myself here. And the last one that I did was really just using RTX. It took about less than an hour, and it was all real time, and it gave me the results that were comparable to the other 3, again, setting up control. So just from looking at these results, you can see that using a real-time solution such as RTX enables you to finish work quicker, as well as reduce the crew persons needed for each job. This again translates to more jobs accepted, less crew per people used, thereby increasing your the value of what you can offer. Next slide, please. So RTX has been around and used in other industries, mainly agriculture, for the last 10 years. As RTX evolved, its accuracy improved and the convergence time was reduced to a more manageable and more acceptable time, as Tawfiq mentioned, at less than a minute. Because of this, we have seen a tremendous growth in usage of RTX in mapping and geospatial applications. RTX is currently offered in 3 accuracies. Again, Tawfiq mentioned that for mapping and geospatial. Centerpoint RTX being the highest accuracy of less than 2 centimeters horizontal, field point less than 10, and viewpoint less than 50. The prices here are shown here reflect annual fees, with the exception of the 3-month Centerpoint offering. I'm now going to pass it to Jay, who's going to talk about the applicable hardwares that can be used for RTX in mapping and survey.
Thanks, Alex. So here is a slide of the offering that we have currently for Trimble hardware that is compatible with RTX, both satellite and internet. As you can see from left to right here, towards the left, we have an Android Nomad 5 with an EM100. You're looking at about sub-meter accuracy on that device. And right next to it, there is a Windows 10 T7 tablet, also with the same external GNSS receiver EM100. All in the same category as the R1 you see in the lower left. The main difference of the R1 in the lower left is that's where you get into the bring your own device and bring your own app to the party, so to speak, which Joe will talk about in the software section in a little bit. So that whole left side there is considered your sub-meter for horizontal on the mapping realm. In the middle, then, we start to get into some of the sub-foot category hardware that we have. On the left there is the TDC 150 that can use a variety of apps and also use RTX with both satellite and internet. On the right there is the older model Windows Mobile Trimble 7X. This particular unit can get internet-based only for RTX. It does not use the satellite-based configuration or corrections. Then moving on to the right side, and you saw that quite a bit in some of Tawfiq's slides, is the R2, which can use both sub-meter, sub-foot, and or down to the centimeter level of RTX, both satellite-based and internet. Up there at the top is the DA1 Catalyst antenna, which is used for subscription-based monthly subscriptions of accuracy depending on your jobs and tasks at the time. That one also too is using satellite and or internet based off of what type of apps you are using. Again, bring your own device, bring your own app to the party. And then in the lower right there, we're getting into the survey side, the R10 and R12 Trimble receivers that are internet-based and satellite-based corrections. And again, there's the web link. You can check that all out. Joe, are you online here to talk about the software that is?
Yeah. So
configurations.
So there was a poll that was on there that said that your biggest barriers to using Trimble RTX, and there were a few that answered that it does not match my national reference frame. So what we have here is a list of applications that will actually take that that reference frame that RTX is in, and then apply it into that spatial data, so you could collect data, your data in a WGS84 or even a NAT83 2011 with these softwares. And we've listed these softwares here, explaining a little bit about each, not going into detail with them. So you'll have Trimble Teraflex, which will run on Android or iOS. And it has the ability to pair with the Bluetooth bring your own device receivers. It does have an annual subscription cost associated with it, and it will take care of that RTX solution out in the field. The same with PinMap for Android. PinMap for Android is a GIS survey hybrid software that Trimble also offers, which is an annual subscription as well. Caveat to this is it runs on Android only, but will also take care of that reference frame as well. You have UAV ground control. If you're doing UAV aerial imagery or such, and you need to do ground control, there is a paid-for app. I believe it's $9.99 on the App Store. You can use RTX with this to shoot ground control while you're out in the field. Then finally, the one here is Trimble recently released an application called Trimble Mobile Manager for both Android and iOS. This app now that has come out allows you to change your coordinate systems and do orthometric or mean sea level elevations with this software. So that means we can change the coordinate system of RTX to be used in Esri field maps, which is the latest iteration of Esri collector is now field maps. And we're going to have a webinar later down the line about Esri field maps as well, and the workings with Trimble Mobile Manager. But RTX does work inside of this field maps vein. So it is a tangible solution to go out there and collect data if you don't have the ability to post-process or you don't have cell service and you want to get high accuracy while you're out in the field. Go ahead and go to the next slide, back to Jay.
All right. A quick note back on that one slide. TerraFlex now does have the capabilities of doing mean sea level, and you can set up a coordinate system that is NAT83 in the workspace when you are at the very first step of creating your projects. So just a quick note on that. That is new as of December last year. Some customer stories, both Seiler related, that we've worked with Trimble on. You can see the two documents there and the web link down at the bottom. This is out on our website. We've got two survey customers that have recently used in the last couple of years RTX. And again, the case study is perfect for this because they're out in remote areas where there may not be good cellular data connectivity or even a VRS. So one of them happens to be doing stakeouts for utility poles across remote sections of Kansas for co-op utilities. And the other one has to do with ag, which Alex had mentioned earlier, where some of this technology kind of derived from on the Trimble side, is that you've got someone that is using drones and also imagery to do ground control, but then what they're doing is they're using the drone to then take new imagery for health conditions on the crops throughout the life cycle of that season to see what changes have transpired, whether it's due to pesticides or weather conditions. So RTX is being used for the ground control of that type of project. Most recently, I've been working with some customers that have both used TerraFlex Collector and also PenMap for Android that have been using both R2s and the Catalyst DA1 in their seasonal work. And so they are going into some areas that are remote that may not have a VRS already established, or they're going to be in an area such as a farm or railroad corridor mapping project that just doesn't have a VRS set up already in advance. So RTX Satellite has been one of the prime go-to correction sources for them. Tawfiq, you got the next slide?
So there are promotions, and just to tie on with Jay, that in stating with customers that are traveling to different areas, if you travel to different areas to do data collection, this really takes the guesswork out of you needing to find a VRS or RTK solution and going from state to state. I know I've talked to a couple customers that, hey, let's go with this. Yes, it is a paid for source, but it really takes away the time of needing to either find, if you go to that state that has a paid for solution, such as Illinois. Majority of our states are free networks, but if you're traveling from state to state, RTX takes the guesswork out of needing to find out if that state has a RTK solution out there in the field. Also, we do have some current promotions that are going there. You can get a free 30-day trial for any Trimble RTX survey using the promotion code free30. We also have some bundles with the R1 and Viewpoint and the EM100, which is an R1 attached to a Nomad 5 or a T7 tablet with a Viewpoint RTX bundle, and saving up to $400 as well. So there are promotions there, and if you have any questions about this, we can get you in contact with that specific sales rep, and we can answer any questions that we have there. Tawfiq, if you go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So we do have contact information. To get a hold of any of our mapping sales, you can email us at mapping@seilerinst.com. If you want to get to the support team, which would be Jay, Joe, and we have another coworker named Dan, you can email us at mapsupport@seilergeo.com. You can email us at seilerinst.com too. It's the same email. It goes to the same team. It'll create a case, and one of the three of us will able to get that. We'll get that information. Answer any information that you might have. We also have a blog where we put blog information out there. And we put blogs about updates such as webinars or updates to software or hardware. You can follow us on Twitter as well. We post stuff about webinars and just all around interesting stuff that we find out. We have Facebook, and then also there is Trimble Positioning Services, where you can find more information about the RTX information as well as getting your demos through there as well. I'm finished there. I think, are we heading into Q&A now?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute.
Nope,
I don't have it. I don't have anything else to add, and we're getting a few questions. Anybody else, if you do have any questions, please go ahead and type that in the question box. You'll be able to find that in your panel in the webinar window. And the first question we have is, will RTX work with the Trimble GNSS utility and the R2 on Android? I'll just state that yes, it will work. This is an older software, so you may not have all the features available, and it may not meet all of your application needs. And Joe or Jay, would you like to add on to that?
Yeah, so really now what I would recommend doing is using Trimble Mobile Manager, because depending on the application that you're using with the GNSS status utility, the RTX is going to be in that reference frame, that national reference frame of ITRF 2014, and it does not really mix well with when we're working in a GIS solution of WGS 84 or a state plane coordinate system. So if you were to use the Trimble Mobile Manager side of it, you could change the output of that national reference frame, and it will match with what you're trying to collect in the field. So my recommendation would be to move to Trimble Mobile Manager, because that is where Trimble is moving their resources into this app, and GNSS status will still be there, but at some point in time, we probably will ride that application off into the sunset.
Okay. Again, if you do have any other questions, please type them in. The next question is, does the field user know if and when service cuts between IP versus satellite delivery? So the technical and simple answer is yes, but Joe, would you like to expand on that?
Yeah, so it depends. I guess it's going to depend on the software that you're utilizing, in terms of if it's going to go IP versus satellite. For instance, if we are going to use Teraflex, back in the office, there is a positioning source where we would actually have to set if it was IP or via satellite. So through there, we would actually have to select which of the two we were going to use. But in terms of field maps, I haven't done any testing, unless Jay has, to determine whether we were getting it via internet or via satellite. just because Trimble Mobile Manager is going to, with that configuration through Trimble Mobile Manager, it's going to select the best solution, for you in terms of data collection. Jay, have you seen anything with the real time, with it saying if it's via satellite or IP?
I haven't tested it yet with field maps, but that is on our to-do, and in our upcoming webinar that we have with Esri on field maps, we can bring that topic up to that webinar.
Great, thank you. And to expand a little bit on what Joe said, there are options where you can select and have the software automatically switch between IP and satellite depending on availability and what's the best correction source at the time at any given time. The next question is, will RTX work under or near power lines? So with any sort of GNSS positioning, you have to be careful about obstructions and interference, and that can affect your positioning capability, not only in terms of accuracy, but also reliability and availability. Again, technically, yes, the solution will work under or near power lines, but it'll have very similar limitations that you'd be used to with any sort of positioning, whether that's autonomous, SBAS, or RTK. It's something to take into consideration when you go into more hostile type environments. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
No, I agree with it. I agree with that statement. You know, it's just delaying the signal to the GPS receiver. So you know, you got to be aware of having that multipath to the receiver, because then it's also going to decrease, or you're going to have a decrease in accuracy with RTX as well.
The next question, how does IP delivery work? Cell service. So IP delivery, it's sent via the internet. You are able to, as long as you have an internet source, which you can establish in any way you like, that could be through a SIM card with your controller or your phone. It could be through a hotspot. As long as you have that internet service, you can receive those corrections via internet. Joe?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good with that. So in retrospect, the Geo7X is the only device that will need IP delivery service. Everything else that Jay had talked about will be delivered via satellite. So you don't need internet with the other devices, other than the Geo7X.
Also, to Tawfiq and Alex and Joe, I just put in the chat to all panelists and attendees. There is the geospatial configuration guide for apps that are both Trimble and Esri. There's the link in the chat window right there. Mm-hmm. It's kind of an interactive user guide.
Perfect. Thanks, Jay.
Yep.
The next question, is RTX similar to SBAS as far as being easily blocked by obstructions? The answer is yes, because they are both geostationary satellites when you're considering satellite delivery. However, unlike SBAS, RTX utilizes more than just GPS. So if you are still able to receive the correction, the number of GNSS satellites that you have available to you when you're using RTX is far greater than SBAS. So while obstructions will limit GNSS satellites, since you have a greater number available to use with RTX versus SBAS, you will be able to position in more types of environments. Additionally, cellular delivery is available as an option, and that is a good solution to simultaneously use satellite and IP delivery depending on the kind of environments you're working in and the obstructions that you may face. Joe, would you like to add anything?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good with that. Yes, I'm good with that answer.
All right. So that was the last questions. If anybody has any more questions, please feel free to type them in, and we can help answer that.
And just a word of this while if we're waiting to see if any more come in, we are recording this webinar. We're going to post this to the Seiler Solutions YouTube page once we download it, and we'll post that to the YouTube page here relatively quickly. But yeah, if you have any questions, please let us know.
One more question just came up. Is RTX reliable to use on continuous data collection? I'm not sure I understand the question fully. So if you would like to elaborate on that, please go ahead and submit another question. But the answer is yes. Yeah, use RTX continuously. It can be used for static data collection. It can be used for dynamic data collection. It is reliable and available continuously. As I mentioned, it's the network and the service itself is owned and operated by Trimble, and it's monitored 24/7. We have customer support. We make sure that the solution is continuously available to be able to be used. Would anybody like to add to that?
Nope, we're good. I'm good.
Yep.
All right. Doesn't look like we have any more. Oh, there we go. Oh, there's a few coming in here. All right, we've got a question from Todd. Is the subscription price per unit, is there multiple machine pricing? Alex, would you like to take that?
Sure. Yeah, the subscription is price per unit. It's based off a serial number. So it is tied to a particular device, unlike VRS or any kind of other RTK where you can share and have multiple units on. This is per unit. There is multiple machine pricing where we can work together with Seiler sales reps to discuss. So if you have any need for that, you can certainly contact Seiler sales, and we would certainly entertain and work with that.
Thanks, Alex.
Yep.
The next question, is exfil still there? Okay, so we actually didn't talk about exfil today. It is more of a survey application. However, I'll briefly review what exfil is. exfil actually uses the Trimble RTX technology and the Trimble RTX satellites. And the way exfil works is uses a subset of the same RTX correction in order to allow you to position longer with RTK and VRS. That is currently available on the R10 and R12 platforms, and it's still available there.
And that, Tawfiq, just to clarify, that's specifically with the Trimble Access survey workflow, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep.
That's not a mapping workflow.
Nope. Okay. Okay. We got some more clarification about the continuous data collection. Mounting an R10 on SXS to topo large areas. I think that's a perfect application. You can topo large areas with RTX. You'll have that high level of accuracy that you need. You can use it without worrying. As you're moving around that large area, you don't have to worry about connectivity to your base station. You don't have to worry about cellular connectivity or availability of the VRS network. So yes, that is a perfect application to use RTX and perfectly suitable. Okay, I don't see any more questions coming in. Great. I guess that's everything. As we mentioned, this webinar is being recorded and will be available along with the slide deck that has all of these links in here. Here's contact information on this slide. Thank you again for joining our presentation. I hope you were able to learn more about corrections and as well as Trimble RTX, and we look forward to working with you. Any last words from you guys?
Thanks, Tawfiq and Alex, for joining us and hosting this webinar with us and talking more about RTX. And appreciate you guys taking the time and effort to be on with us. And thanks everybody for joining the webinar too as well. Feel free to reach out if you have questions. Jay.
Yep. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Tawfiq. Thanks for working on this with us. And if anybody has any questions, please do follow up with us. And like Joe said, we'll post this to our Seiler blog and the Seiler YouTube channel, and the PDF copy of the PowerPoint will be available if needed.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate your time.
All right.
All right. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.